Let's face it, life isn't always the party we thought it would be. So how do we find the joy when we need it? And what if it's up to us to create it? That's where the Party On podcast comes in. Our goal? To shine the proverbial disco light on all the things that can make our lives easier, healthier, and a heck of a lot more fun. So we can enjoy the party we were all invited to, live our best lives, and dance like no one's watching. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Party On podcast. I'm so glad you're here for yet another week. We are talking today about when everything feels like too freaking much, which kind of feels like all the time lately. Am I right? Again, this podcast is brought to you by the Festive Farm Co., which is the shop that I created years ago to spread love and joy into this world. We specialize in making meaningful gifts that you can send to loved ones during times of grief or happiness, really any time of year, even if you just want to let them know they're loved, they're seen, and that you are grateful that they exist. Head to thefestivefarmco.com. Check it out. I am sure you will love what we have to offer. But today, we're talking about overwhelm. And if you are human, I am sure that you have dealt with that, right? Because it's impossible not to in this life, truly, and especially these days. My husband and I talk all the time about this topic and really just all the stuff, you guys, that we have to do and remember and log into, and especially if you are in midlife and you're like kind of balancing that middle, you just have so much to attend to between kids and aging parents and work. And sometimes I like to think about the 80s and 90s and what it was like to grow up then. And I wonder about our parents, and I'm like, were they as overwhelmed as we are now? And there's times I think yes, and then there's times I think no, because of the passwords alone, just because of the internet alone. If I have to click forgot my password one more time and it tell me that I can't create a password at all similar to any of my old passwords, I think I have probably up to 3 million passwords at this point. And if that isn't enough to overwhelm a girl in midlife, I don't know what is. But no matter the reason, overwhelm eventually gets us, right? It eventually hits, usually in midlife. You know what? Not even in midlife. Like, it affects everyone. And for me, it affects me physically. Like, when I get overwhelmed, I just suddenly get this real tight feeling in my chest. And usually it's not because just one thing is overwhelming. It's because all of it together, including the passwords, feel impossible. And overwhelm is weird like that because as I started to think about it, I realized it rarely comes from one big thing. It usually comes from like a tiny 1,000 weights we've been carrying around quietly and usually for way too long, like our responsibilities, our expectations, our emotional labor, and a big one, kind of the pressure to hold everything together. And then one day your nervous system simply says, that's it. I can't carry all of this anymore. I'm not doing it. And today that's what we're talking about, how to move through that feeling of overwhelm when life feels like it's too much, but not by pushing harder. We're not doing that. We're not doing that anymore, friends, and not by becoming more productive, but by learning how to come back to ourselves. And one of the points I want to make here is that overwhelm isn't weakness. I don't know about you, but maybe this is just something about the way that my brain works, but I tend to always kind of go to weakness, like, oh, I should be doing more, or that's something I'm doing wrong. But overwhelm is not that. It is not weakness. It is your nervous system saying the demands on me right now are greater than the resources that I have. And I love thinking about it that way. I'm going to say it again. Overwhelm is when the demands on you are greater than the resources that you actually have in that moment. And so many of us, especially in midlife, I think we live in a constant state of that imbalance because we're managing work, family, aging parents, personal relationships, and even, like we've talked about in the past episodes, our own identity shifts, all while trying to hold everyone else around us emotionally steady. And that is a lot. That is a heck of a lot for one nervous system. And then add in the passwords. Holy jeez. So if you feel overwhelmed, first thing I want you to know is you're not alone, and it doesn't mean you're failing. It means your system is asking for support. It's screaming for support. And when overwhelm hits, I think our minds just start spinning first, and we start thinking, I can't handle this. I'm behind. I should be doing more. I'm dropping the ball. And if you're like me and you struggle with anxiety, this is the dangerous part, because our thoughts suddenly start to take over. And now it's not just overwhelm. Now it's overwhelm and anxiety. And suddenly you're not just overwhelmed by life. You're overwhelmed by your thoughts about life and how you should be doing life. Like we should all be superhuman or something. So for me, the first step is surprisingly simple, but hands down just should be the first step every time when you start to get overwhelmed. And it's the pause. It's to remind yourself, I'm not fixing right now. I'm not solving right now. I'm not going to figure everything out. That's not what I need to do in this moment. When overwhelm hits, we need to pause and take a breath, because a nervous system in panic cannot problem solve, right? And then once we've paused, there's a few things that we can do, or at least that I do, to help the feeling. And one of the most powerful things that I love to do when I'm overwhelmed is what I like to call shrinking time. Because overwhelm isn't actually something that is present. This is just a crazy thought to me to think about. Overwhelm doesn't actually exist. It isn't something that's happening in the present. It lives in the future, if you think about it, because overwhelm is everything we haven't done yet, right? Or everything that might go wrong. It's not actually happening in the present. So if you can keep yourself present, you can reduce the overwhelm. So when I think about shrinking time or shrinking the moment, instead of thinking of everything you have to do or your whole entire list, just stay present and ask, what is the only thing I need to do in the next, say, 10 minutes? So you're not thinking about a full day or a full week. What is the only thing I need to do in the next 10 minutes? You can also reframe this as a hack to think about it like shrinking the task. So if you need to clean the house, shrink that down. Just do one small step. So instead of cleaning the whole house, do the dishes. Start one load of laundry. Do one small thing, just one, because overwhelm dissolves when life becomes small enough for us to feel like we can hold it again. I also want to talk a little bit about the invisible load here, because I think so much of overwhelm comes from things that we carry that no one sees. And I think women especially struggle with this. So that would mean like the emotional labor we're putting into relationships, the planning that no one sees, the remembering of appointments and things for our kids and dates, who needs what, when the appointments are, who they're with, what everyone else is feeling. And we often carry that invisible mental load, and it never gets acknowledged by anyone around us. So sometimes the most healing thing you can say to yourself when you're overwhelmed is, I can't hold all of this alone, and ask for help. Because so much of overwhelm comes from the things in our mind that no one else sees. So how can they help us with it if they can't see it, right? And sometimes I even feel like we do this to our spouses. And the whole topic of our spouses carrying the mental load with us is a completely different episode. We'll have to do that another time. But we have to learn, step one, to ask for help, because delegation isn't a failure and support isn't weakness. And asking for help isn't burdening people. The people who love us want to help us. Asking for help is being human. And also, when I think about the mental load here, let it go. I have had to learn to let so much of the mental load go here, and actually let physical things go too. So one thing about me is that I'm a pretty clean person. I like things tidy. I think it has to do with my anxiety. Like the more my space feels in order, the more I feel in order mentally, truly. And so having kids was a big challenge for me because I don't know if you've got the memo on this, but kids aren't so tidy. And so when it first started, when they were toddlers and there were just toys everywhere, I really struggled, and I started to become I just had to have everything clean every night before bed. I just had to. And I didn't like how it was or who it was making me become, because I was almost adding to my overwhelm and stressing myself out more by making sure the house was clean every night. So I actually made a mental decision, and I said, what if I were to make a decision that gives me the control, saying that I am choosing to let this go for X amount of time? And what happened was so freeing. So what I decided is, and this was really hard for me at first, you guys, I was just going to let the toys stay out and everything stay a mess all week until Sunday night. And then on Sunday night, as a family, we would do Sunday night cleanup. And just making that decision, now while it was hard on me at first, the overwhelm, knowing that I had made the decision that this is how it was going to be, the overwhelm of I have to clean this every night disappeared, and it helped so much. And knowing that there was a plan in place, that it would be taken care of on every Sunday night, that the whole family would be helping, was so incredibly helpful. So in a way, it was combining all of these strategies of letting someone else share the load, asking for help, and letting it go. And it has worked so beautifully for our family. My boys are almost grown, 15 and 13 now. And we still do Sunday night pickup, and it has helped them learn how to self-police and how to, manage their spaces and manage their overwhelm. And that was all born from me being overwhelmed, slowing down, pausing, and asking for help. Another thing I like to do when I get overwhelmed is to reduce my input. And I'm weird, sometimes a little woo-woo, and I actually like to call this energy tunnels, because that's what it feels like in my mind. But whatever you want to call it, reduce the input, energy tunnels. But a perfect example would be for me, like when I get off of social media, like I actually will delete the apps for days at a time. I'm reducing the amount of people who have access to me. In my mind, I see that as like an energy tunnel from me to them. So I'm reducing the amount of people who have access to me and who I have access to, and the amount of information I'm absorbing, which can contribute to overwhelm so fast. I don't even think we realize how fast, you guys. And I talked about this on Instagram recently. I have been away from Instagram for about 5 years and recently came back, and I have just been shocked at how quickly the amount of information that you're taking in can affect you. It happens so quickly, and really the word is subtly. You don't realize it's happening. So what else can you do in this area? What else can you do to reduce input? You can silence notifications on your phone, close extra tabs on your computer, and my husband and I like to say close extra tabs in your brain. We like to complete loops and finish things that we've been working on so we can close that tab. Put your phone in another room, sleep with it in a different room, and doing all of that, just doing some small things like that can really clear your mental space and allow you to ask yourself what really matters today. Like I said, get back to being present and what really matters right now. And it really can help you drop expectations on yourself and really unrealistic expectations. A few other quick ideas I love that can really help. One of my favorite things to do is to create a done list. Ooh, I love this one. This one makes me so happy. So much of overwhelm is mental. And it is making yourself remember that you are, like I said, you are okay. You are safe. You're not failing. You're not behind. It's just breathing, pausing, taking a beat. So creating a done list helps me so much with this. I get a piece of paper and I write down all the things that I've actually done. And then, yes, I know the question that you're asking that you want to know the answer to. I cross it off. And I feel immediately less overwhelmed. Like, even if I've just done one or two things, it is a visual of what I've done, and that helps so much. Number 2, lower the bar temporarily. This is another favorite of mine. Being a perfectionist, I hold myself to such high standards, and sometimes your 80% is someone else's perfect. And sometimes your 80% and your done is better than perfect. So lower the bar temporarily. Overwhelm is not constant. It is a temporary moment. It is a temporary feeling. So to get through it, if you need to lower the bar, you can do that. And then also have a regulating phrase. My favorite is, I don't have to have it all figured out. And you can add today to the end of that. So when I get overwhelmed, I just remember I don't have to have it all figured out. We really don't. We don't need to. And finally, I want to talk about overwhelm here as a physical sensation, because I think this is a really important part of it. And quick aside, you guys, when I started really involving my physical body in my healing, so much changed for me. Talk therapy is wonderful, but somatic healing and somatic therapy, when you can combine that with good talk therapy and really everything else you're doing, all the other modalities, then it just makes such a difference. I think that we've learned to be so much in our heads, and we've learned to think through everything, and we forget to involve our bodies. And what I've learned about overwhelm is that it lives in our body. That's where it lives. Think about how you feel. Think about really the moments when you really start to feel overwhelmed. It's almost like panic. You have a tight chest, maybe shallow breathing, racing thoughts. So before you try to think your way out of overwhelm, we should think about how to regulate our nervous system through it. So this goes back to the pause, like I said in the beginning, but things like stepping outside for fresh air. One of my favorites is placing my hand on my heart, or I'll place both hands on my thighs to remind myself that I'm here, I'm human, I exist. Slow down your breathing. Take a short walk. Drink water. I always say go to water. If you can get to water, make some tea, look at water, take a bath, take a shower, or turn off any kind of stimulation for a few minutes. Sometimes calm returns to us when our body feels safe again. And then that's when the overwhelm leaves. So just never underestimate what regulating your body can do when it comes to overwhelm. And a long time ago, I think I was in middle school, and a pastor came to talk to our group, and he had a backpack. And he said, imagine carrying a backpack. And he had, all these rocks in his hands. And he said, every day you add one small rock, just a responsibility, like a worry, a task, a pressure, and he kept adding rocks. And he held one rock in his hand, and he said, one rock doesn't feel heavy. But after months or years, and he just kept adding the rocks in the backpack, after decades, that backpack becomes unbearable. And he actually had us come up to the front and see if we could lift it, and none of us could. And the solution to that isn't to shame yourself for struggling to carry it, right? The solution is to set the backpack down for a moment. The solution is to rest. The solution is to take out a few rocks and say, I didn't need these to begin with. Why am I still carrying these? And remember that you were never meant to carry the entire weight alone. And I love that analogy so much. I've never forgotten it. And if today feels overwhelming, if you're listening to this today because of your overwhelm, just pause, breathe, make life small again, and look for the small joys because they are there even amidst the overwhelm. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply human in a very, very demanding world with a whole lot of passwords, and that deserves compassion. If this episode resonated with you guys, send it to someone who might be carrying a heavy backpack right now. And if no one has told you this today, you are doing better than you think. So much better than you think. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me again for the Party On podcast. Again, if you are enjoying these episodes, we would love for you to go leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or we are now on YouTube. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I hope you can remember these tips for any time you get overwhelmed. Have a great day, you guys, and party on.